Okay, I want you to imagine something for a second. You wake up tomorrow morning, you grab your phone, and boom, you suddenly see exactly 5 crore rupees sitting right there in your bank account. Totally out of nowhere. Without any prep time, what is the literal first thing you do? I mean, it feels like an absolute blessing, right? Like every single one of your problems just vanished in a split second. But, well, in reality, in this explainer, we're going to see why that exact blessing can turn into an absolute curse. We are diving into a pretty dark rulebook for surviving sudden wealth, and it's actually deeply rooted in the 500-year-old philosophies of Niccolo Machiavelli, because he wrote the actual rules of power. We're not talking about those polite little tips you read in modern self-help books. We're talking about how the world truly, ruthlessly operates. So let's jump right into this step-by-step masterclass on how to actually convert sudden money into lasting power. Here's our roadmap for today. 1. The curse of sudden wealth. 2. Power in stealth wealth. 3. Building your invisible fortress. 4. Crushing your inner enemies. 5. The cost of generosity. And finally 6. The king's golden rule.
All right, section 1. The curse of sudden wealth. You know, we always tend to think a massive windfall will just magically fix all our flaws. But if you look at historical data, and honestly Machiavellian principles, it does the exact opposite. Sudden wealth doesn't change you, it exposes you. Now, I asked you earlier what you'd do if you got 5 crore tomorrow. I want you to be totally honest with yourself right now. Who would you tell first? Your family? Maybe your closest relatives? Your absolute best friend? Well, if your answer is yes to literally any of those, you've actually already failed the very first test. In that rush of excitement, you think you just bought your total freedom, but actually, scratch that, you just inherited a massive new burden.
Seriously, the research on lottery winners and instant millionaires is genuinely terrifying. It shows this clear, completely repeatable pattern. The faster they rise, the faster they crash. More than half end up divorced within just a few years. So many fall straight into addiction, bankruptcy, and deep depression. And you might be wondering why. Because keeping wealth is, without a doubt, 100 times harder than getting it. Sudden money acts like this massive new gravitational pull, and it just drags everyone with their hands wide open straight towards you. If you haven't built the mental discipline to maintain that wealth, it is going to vanish way faster than it arrived.
Which brings us to section 2, power in stealth wealth.
This is exactly where Machiavelli's deeply counterintuitive rule comes in. Society is constantly screaming at us to flaunt our success, right? But true power demands absolute silence. We call this stealth wealth. Basically, it means owning massive assets, but living this outwardly ordinary, almost boring life. And please understand this. Discretion here isn't about being humble or just a nice person. No way. It is a critical, calculated weapon for your survival. Machiavelli warned that broadcasting your victories literally just invites other people to attack you. The very second you put your wealth on display, you are revealing your most glaring vulnerability. Just look at the stark contrast between these two approaches. Take Jack Whittaker. He was just an ordinary guy who won a staggering 2,600 crore lottery back in 2002. And man, he flaunted it. He became this media hero, generously handing out stacks of cash, buying houses and cars for people. But the second the cameras turned off, his whole life collapsed. People abandoned him the moment he actually needed them, and incredibly tragically, his sudden wealth even led to his teenage granddaughter's fatal drug overdose. He later said he wished he had just torn the ticket up. Now, contrast that horrific tragedy with the Rothschild family. Since the 18th century, they financed kings and funded entire wars, yet they remained outwardly modest, quiet, and honestly pretty boring. They let their influence speak way louder than their lifestyle. Their invisibility was their absolute armor, and it allowed them to rule for centuries.
Okay, section 3. Building your invisible fortress.
So if you want to emulate the Rothschilds instead of ending up like Jack Whittaker, how do you actually pull that off? Because you have to survive in a modern world that is completely obsessed with visibility and broadcasting every tiny detail on social media. Well, the answer is structure. You literally have to build an invisible fortress. This is Machiavelli's art of disguise. The very first person you tell about your sudden wealth isn't your best friend. It's an attorney, a true professional who speaks the language of legal shields. You do not hold vast wealth in your own name. Instead, you use trusts to hide your identity, holding companies to shield your assets, and professionals to handle your affairs completely quietly. So your public life, it remains completely unchanged, but behind the scenes, you are protected by impenetrable legal walls. But here's the thing. Building your fortress isn't just about legal documents. It's heavily about your mind. Never quit working completely. Machiavelli noted that idleness makes a ruler soft and weak. The real danger of wealth isn't just wildly spending, it's stagnation. Look at Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett. Buffett is in his 90s and he is still working every single day to refine his craft. Now, you don't have to keep a suffocating, miserable job, but you absolutely must keep your momentum. Focus your energy, stay mentally sharp, and avoid the trap of just sitting around all day with nothing to do.
Section 4. Crushing your inner enemies.
So, once your fortress is legally built and your mind is sharp, you have to look inward. A wise ruler always eliminates internal rebellions before they ever worry about external dangers. And in the world of finance, this translates perfectly to how you handle what you owe. High-interest credit cards and personal loans, they are a disease eating away at your fortress from the inside out. Machiavelli warned that a disease caught early is super easy to cure, but if you ignore it, it becomes fatal. When you suddenly have a huge chunk of money, a credit card balance might look tiny, but trust me, compound interest moves faster than greed. You must absolutely crush this rebellion before you invest a single rupee anywhere else.
Think about it like this. If you have debt with a 20% interest rate and you just pay it off, you have instantly guaranteed yourself a 20% return on your money. It is quite literally the only guaranteed risk-free 20% return on the entire financial world. By eliminating this, you aren't just cleaning up some spreadsheet, you are buying back your peace of mind and permanently silencing the anxiety that chips away at your power.
Section 5. The cost of generosity.
Right, so with the internal rebellion fully crushed, we have to move to the most difficult battlefield of all, your emotions. The biggest threat to your wealth is not a stock market crash, and it's not the taxman. It is the expectations of your closest friends and family. Now, this massive number here, that belongs to the legendary heavyweight champion Mike Tyson. He made over $300 million in his career. That's roughly 2,500 crore rupees. Yet, within a single decade, he was completely bankrupt. And it wasn't just luxury purchases that destroyed him. It was the endless hands reaching out to him for help. He carried the financial burden of dozens of people, essentially becoming a prisoner of his own guilt and uncontrolled generosity. And guess what? When the money dried up, those exact same people completely vanished.
So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is this. You must establish strict rules immediately. Never, ever lend money to friends or family. Loaning money instantly turns relationships into transactions. Think about it. If they can't pay you back, they resent you. If they do pay you back, they feel burdened. If a loved one is in a true, genuine emergency, give them the money as a one-time pure gift with the crystal clear boundary that they will never ask you again. You kind of have to be like the sun, emit warmth from afar, but remain completely untouchable up close.
Section 6. The King's Golden Rule.
Which brings us to the final phase of this explainer. Now that you've protected your wealth from outside threats, internal debt, and those nasty emotional traps, how do you actually make sure it survives for generations? Well, you apply the ancient strategy of kings. There is a profound shift in mindset that has to happen here. The wealthy, they treat their money like a fertile field. They only ever harvest the crop, which is the interest, while leaving the soil perfectly intact. On the flip side, people who fall out of wealth treat their money like firewood. They burn the principal just to get a little bit of temporary warmth, and eventually, inevitably, they are left with nothing but ashes.
To ensure you never end up burning your firewood, you use what we call the 25x rule to calculate your true financial sovereignty. It works like this. Say you need 12 lakhs a year to live a completely comfortable free life. You just multiply that by 25. That means you need to protect a principal amount of 3 crore. That 3 crore is your hidden throne. You live entirely off the interest it generates, and you defend that core principle with your life.
And to protect that throne, you absolutely must diversify. You can't keep all your eggs in one basket. Remember the Medici family, the most powerful banking family of 15th century Italy? They achieved literal financial immortality by diversifying. You put some wealth in land, maybe some in businesses, some in gold, and always keep a healthy chunk in cash reserves. By spreading your assets out, you ensure that no single disaster can ever overthrow your kingdom.
Ultimately, everything we have covered today boils down to this one singular philosophy. A wise ruler spends to stay rich, not to look rich. True wealth just isn't loud. It's not about flashy cars or dripping in designer clothes. True wealth is silent. It is about buying your time, buying your freedom, and securing silent, lasting power.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Wealth is incredibly easy to lose, but stealth wealth, that creates lasting power. If fortune blesses you tomorrow, Are you going to broadcast it to the world and immediately become a target? Or are you going to build your fortress in total silence? I really want you to take a hard look at your own life and your pursuit of influence and ask yourself, where is your real crown?